you a core question. I can see sitting in a state of visionary love, feeling and seeing it in my mind, and feeling the power of those thoughts from an expanded being. I can feel that. And I think a lot of the people joining us can too.
Yes.
But then we're not on our meditation cushion. We get up, we open our eyes, and we look around and we encounter some type of terrible brutality, gross, vulgar action and hatred. It's like, here's the vision and this state of perfection that I can sit in and feel. And then here's what's actually happening right now. And it's heartbreaking. What do you do with those two different inputs?
Well, what I do is I seek to bring that higher consciousness into the world with my action and my conversation. I try not to let what I'm witnessing, which is the condensation of thoughts, into brutality, theft, greed, hate, etc. I try not to let that shrink my awareness. So it's a practice on and off the mat. So then I become available to inspired wisdom that moves me into whatever action is appropriate to alleviate suffering. So as a community, we can't do everything as a spiritual community, but as a part of our ethic, we support other organizations that do things that we don't do. That's a way that we move into action in the world.
Okay, but let me just get into this a little bit more, because I think sometimes when people, you have this saying, this will make sense in a moment, that it's not that practice makes perfect, but that it's about practicing perfection that makes perfect.
Yes.
And I think that once again, this notion of sitting in a perfected state, and then it meets the trouble in our world. And I think what happens for some people is that they then go into heartbreak, or they go into rage, or they go into something that's no longer a sense of perfection, but it's a sense of response. And that's what I want to understand is, what do you do when those things come up?
When they come up for me, I go back to the mat and then ask, what am I to do? That's what I do. And then I try to garner the community into that kind of state. And so that they use their gifts, everyone has different gifts and talents, to be in the world, from the high frequency using your gift. So we don't deny what's going on. But after a while, this is years of practice, there's less and less reaction to the human foibles and dilemmas and hates and things of that particular nature. There's less reaction to it, and there's more response from another level. It's not an easy practice. It's difficult, but it's necessary.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you say you go back into the high frequency, I think sometimes people hear that and they're like, okay, what's going on? You know, the vibrations, frequency, the high frequency. Can you describe for me, Michael, first of all, what it feels like?
No fear. Let's let go of the word frequency, vibration, all that. It's an expanded awareness of what's so. There's something that's timeless. There's something that is eternal. There's something that's real, that's untouched by human experience. And so when you're sitting, then that begins to be more real to you than the chairs we're sitting on. It comes as an insight. That's an event that takes place in your awareness where you suddenly or incrementally know something that you formerly just believed. And then through continued spiritual practice, you stabilize that insight. So you're living in it, you see. So it's like that question, how does it feel? It's like saying, how does spirituality feel? I can say what it's not, you know. There's no fear. There's no fear of death. There's not anxiety or anxiousness. You know, there's just an awareness of what is so. There's an awareness of the real. There's an awareness of, let's say, peace. You know, the peace I define as the dynamic of harmonizing good. That's what it feels like. Even if I look on the news and I see something terrible, I don't like it. I can have righteous indignation about it even, you know. But more and more and more, it's going to disturb my peace less and less, so that my response will be compassion, which compassion is whatever I do is about the elimination of suffering.
It's fun to watch that with you, MBB. This notion that we can go back to the mat, we can activate and ask, what is ours to do? I wonder right here if you can take us into this practice of perfection, the way that it's real for you, and bring us with you. Bring us with you, Michael.
Absolutely. Let me just say this. When we talk about practicing perfection, many people are practicing judgment. They're practicing worry. They're practicing doubting. And so when we talk about practicing perfection, we're talking about having a practice in which you come into a state of coherence around the peace and the love and the beauty and the joy. And that it is another word that might be make people more comfortable is progress. That it's not about perfection from a linear concept. It's about we're making progress, that more and more and more of ourselves is unfolding. So that may shed a little bit more light on the questions you were asking in that wonderful interview. So I would invite us at this moment to just stop for a moment and just to turn within, meaning let us extract our attention from the world for a moment, the world of effects, the world of circumstances, situations, people, places, things. And let us turn within and just notice for a moment that the body is breathing, and that this breath, the inhalation and the exhalation, is happening presently. It's not a past breath. It's not a future breath. We're right here present with ourselves. And it is from this awareness that I invite us to catch the feeling, whether it's from the imagination or from memory, the feeling of all of our needs being met right now. The feeling of a deep sense of joy, not based on circumstance, because we've pulled our attention away from circumstances. The feeling of a dynamic peace, not based on anything but the right use of our re-enchanted imagination or a memory. It's all happening right now. So we are present. We are present with peace, with joy, and with the awareness that all of our needs are met, including safety, wellness, and well-being. Now allow for the breath to be a talisman of magnification, meaning that with every breath that happens, we're magnifying the awareness of peace, joy, and all of our needs being met. The nervous system is recalibrating around the peace, joy, all needs met, safety, and well-being. It's recalibrating right now. It is from this awareness of practicing perfection, practicing the very essence of life, joy, peace, that I have the privilege and the honor to speak of the vibrational word for each and every one of us tuning in at this precise moment, knowing that the very word that I am speaking is the vibration of peace and of harmony and of love and of joy. And that anything that would hinder this has no power here, is dissolved into the nothingness from which it has come never to exist again, and that each and every one of us are being lifted into an expanded awareness of that which is real, that which is eternal, that which is so. The body temple, the mental body, the emotional body, all of the subtle bodies are now coming into an alignment with the celestial body. And there is now an unfoldment, an outpicturing of our true nature and our true being. We feel it in our bones. We just sit with this for a couple of seconds. We allow ourselves to elevate into a state of gratitude that we exist at all. We did not create ourselves. We give thanks for the gift of our life. And we accept that from this moment on, every single thing is working together for our individual and for our collective good. And it is happening right now. This moment, it's happening now. We give thanks and we allow it to be so. And so it is now, so be it. Amen. We slowly open our eyes and just be with each other in this state.
Thank you, MBB. I noticed, especially as you used the words a feeling of safety and all needs being met. I had the thought, God, I think so much of the time there's a feeling that all of our needs aren't met. Like we're on the run. There's something that we're needing to achieve or get done or fix or solve. And anyway, I found that very powerful, this notion, right in this moment, all needs being met and being safe too.
Yeah. And that's the practice. Like you practice coming back to that awareness, and it becomes a feeling, and it recalibrates our nervous system so that we become available now, instead of anxiousness and anxiety, which blocks inspired wisdom. It hinders guidance because there's static on the line. We practice that sense of connection, so we become available to right action, become available to, let's say, inspired wisdom in a language in a way that we can understand, either intuitively or however it is that we uniquely curate wisdom and guidance, so that we're actually moving from that state rather than reacting from the worry and the incessant fear or the running, as you've described it.
Recalibrating our nervous system. So one of the questions I have for you is what I notice, even just from that short meditation that we did together, I can feel, and I think the people who are with us and entered the meditation felt that different calibration, if you will. And then something, just, something, whatever happens, like we decide to check an email or something, whatever, and we're easily dysregulated. And so it's like we're living with these two different sort of channels or nervous system states. Occasionally we interrupt and we enter that place of safety and joy. And then there's the rest of our, dysregulated life. And it can feel a little bit almost like, if they were channels on a radio station, that there are these different channels going on. And I wonder how you see it and how we can bring it into more of a sense of an integrated way of living instead of this sense of two channels.
Yeah, that's where many people live. Obviously, there's something happening in the world or in their own private life, and they're moved off a center. So we realize, as I realize, that what we're looking at with our eyes, and we're seeing things going on. And I think I may have mentioned this in our previous time together, that we're looking at the condensation of thought forms and beliefs that they condense themselves into time and experience. And what we're seeking to do when we're practicing perfection, we're seeking to come to a different vibration, but we have to do it on such a regular basis so that when we see with our eyes something that's off center, when we see it, there's not an immediate knee-jerk reaction to it. In other words, as we become conscious, everybody who's tuning into us right now, there's a reason they're tuning in. They're part of a group of people that is seeking to remember that they've incarnated in order to bring this frequency to the planet. Because oftentimes people will say, why doesn't the universal presence do something about the mayhem or the hate or the violence or whatever the case may be? But we forget that we've been sent to bring that frequency. This universal presence, whatever name you want to call it, can only be and do what it does through us. It doesn't do anything independent of us. It does something through us. So when we are practicing and coming into a state of coherence and harmony, then we become a vibrational answer for the mayhem, the stealing, the barbarity, the greed, whatever it is that we're witnessing, even if it's minor or major. We become a vibrational answer to it. So that means we're becoming stronger in that frequency through practice, so that we don't deny what we see. We don't bury our head in the sand and say nothing is happening. We don't do that. But we know about the morphinogenic field. We know that we're all in this field. And whenever this type of state is brought into being, it affects the entire field instantly everywhere. So we're literally, figuratively, really changing the world if we can regularly go into that state. It doesn't appear that way with all the calamity that's coming at us, but it really is changing the world. How do I know that? The world is the condensation of beliefs and opinions. It's not like a thing, So we're literally changing the world. And I think that's anybody who's tuning in, they're becoming aware that they've arrived at this time in human history to be world changers. Just sitting in your room right now and just having a moment is changing the world, And I'll stop there and